6 o'clock, I'm calling to order this special meeting of the City Council of the City of Bandera. All council members are present with the exception of Christine Morse. City Administrator David George is present, and City Secretary Jill Shelton is also present. Yeah, Marshall Deefick is here too. Yeah, he's always here. This meeting is available via Zoom. Zoom information is available online. Item 2 is visitors to be heard. Jill, has anyone signed up to speak?
No, ma'am.
Thank you. Item 3 is the consent agenda. Approval of minutes from the December 7th, December 21st, and January 6th meetings. That's December 2021, December 7th, 2021, 21st, 2021, and January 6th, 2022. Rebecca?
Move to approve the consent agenda.
Darcy seconds. All in favor? All in favor, none opposed. Item 4, discuss the possible action on the following items. Item A, acceptance of the resignation of City Secretary Jill Shelton effective January 21st, 2022. Darcy.
I make a motion that we do not accept the resignation of City Secretary Jill. Okay, I changed my motion that we do accept the resignation with a heavy heart of Jill Shelton, effective January 21st, 2022.
Start. Tony seconds. Discussion.
We'll miss you, Jill.
Thank you.
All in favor? Reluctantly. All in favor, none opposed. Your resignation is accepted. Item B, discussion and possible action on approving a resolution appointing the mayor as chief executive officer for the FEMA Hazard Mitigation Grant Project and committing the city to provide matching funds. This is that same item that we did previously. Darcy?
Make a motion that we approve a resolution appointing the mayor as chief executive officer for the FEMA Hazard Mitigation Grant Project and commit the city to provide matching funds.
Tony, second. Discussion?
Well, just, oh no, never mind. I don't.
All
want
in
discussion.
favor? All in favor, none opposed. Item C, discussion and possible action on closing Oak Street between Main Street and 11th Street from January 14th, 2022 at 6 p.m. to January 15th, 2022 at 2 a.m. to provide motorcycle parking for the Vegadores Ball to the Wall Motorcycle Rally. Jerry?
I'd like to make a motion. I move to approve closing Oak Street between Main Street and 11th Street from January 14th at 6 p.m. to January 15th at 2 a.m. to provide motorcycle parking for the Reguladores Balls to the Walls Motorcycle Rally.
Thank you, Jerry.
I'll second.
Rebecca seconds. Discussion? Tony?
So I noticed that this is January 15th at 2 a.m. So really that's Saturday morning, that's not Sunday morning? Is that
Yes, ma'am, that's
intended?
Saturday
That was
morning.
intended?
The event at Shotgun and Boot and Saddle is on Friday night. And then the event on Saturday is at 11th Street. So that's why the request is to close on Friday night from 6 p.m. until 2 a.m. on Saturday.
Okay, but I guess the note that we received from Corey stating that they're actually staying at the hotel, which has more, you know, the motorcycles, and then if any of them are trailering, that they were gonna need extra parking, which means they would need it through Sunday.
They may very well, and if council wants to approve that. I did not discuss that with Corey.
I would like to consider requesting the amendment to be until January the 16th. But I know our agenda says specifically the 15th, so I don't know if we have that option, but I think the 16th at 2 a.m. would be more appropriate.
Discussion? Yes, ma'am.
Can we approve the request as it is on the agenda and then just let the city administrator and marshal leave it closed if they feel like it's best for public safety? Is that acceptable?
Since you have discussed and the consensus, it seems to be that a longer closure would be more in the interest of
And I'm fine with that too. if it's
I
needed.
think, because a lot of them trailer their bikes, and so they've got their trucks and their trailers, and then the bikes are off the trailer, which all require more parking, which to me would mean that they would need it through Sunday morning, but at least Sunday morning, so.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Further discussion? All in favor?
Okay,
All in favor, none opposed. And I believe we've got a consensus of council.
okay.
Item D, discussion of possible action on closing 11th Street between Cyprus and Cedars from January 14th, 2022 at 11 a.m. to January 16th, 2022 at 6 a.m. for pedestrian event safety with additional bike parking for the 15th annual regular Doris Bike Run and National Meeting. Tony,
I so move.
thank you.
Second.
Darcy seconds. Discussion? All in favor? All in favor, none opposed. Item E, discussion of possible action on closing 11th Street between Cyprus and Cedar from February 18th at 11 a.m. to February 20th, 2022, folks, at 6 a.m. for pedestrian event safety with additional bike parking for the 17th annual 11th Street Cowboy Mardi Gras annual celebration. Tony,
I so move.
thank you. Darcy seconds. Discussion? All in favor? All in favor, none opposed. Item E, discussion possible action on request from Kickback Corner to close Cedar Street between Main Street and the beginning of Archibald's parking lot from February 19th, 2022 at 7 a.m. to February 20th at 3 a.m. for the safety of visitors during the Mardi Gras parade and throughout the day's activities. Tony,
I so move with a clarification of 2022.
thank you.
I'll second.
Darcy seconds. Discussion?
I do just want to say something. Being as I live like right there, and when we approved this last year, I was like, oh man, this it's going to be a pain because I drive right there every day, multiple times. I love that we did this. It is a great idea for the safety of the pedestrians. We do have a lot of incidents over there, so I'm glad to see that they requested it again this year.
I agree, thank you. Further discussion? All in favor? All in favor, none opposed. Item G, discussion of possible action on amending the Bandera Personnel Policy Manual to remove the appeal process after termination. This is something that we've discussed multiple times with our attorney. Basically, it just takes it out, that's all it does.
And this is, again, the recommendation of the city attorney and the city administrator. Is that correct?
Right, after consulting with the city attorney and y'all's desires, right, and HR, and multiple comments from the council that desire not to be in there, not for it to be in there, that's why I brought it back, presented it to y'all to full option to take it out.
Rebecca?
Does this require a resolution to remove?
It actually requires an ordinance to remove.
So you want a decision now and then you'll bring it back with the actual ordinance
I believe that that would be the process.
just to
Is
have
that
a
correct? Okay.
consensus?
Say that again? What was that?
It's gonna require an ordinance to remove this.
So if we're in consensus,
If
then
we're
we
in
move
consensus,
forward
then we
with
move
that
forward.
effort. Gotcha.
Right.
Mayor, so being as, I've only been on council a little over a year, and I've listened to council meetings and gone back and read council minutes for multiple years. However, I haven't, heard a lot of discussion about this other than the last time we went through this appeal process recently. I would like to know more about, feelings that council has had previously and why this wasn't removed previously. Because the attorney did say that it was brought up multiple times before and council has chosen not to remove it. So I'd like to know a little more about why that was and.
This has never been on an agenda before. When he said it had been brought up several times, as you heard him say in our meeting previously, no other cities do this, don't know why you're doing it, it needs to be removed. That's the extent of the discussion about what to do with this. So as far as discussion with previous councils on the removal or leaving it, that's never really taken place in an agenda setting. Tony?
So how long has it been in policy to do the appeal?
I'm sorry,
How long has it been a part of the policy? Is this I mean, has it been for a while, or?
Yes,
It was a
this-
recent thing, right? I mean,
I
wasn't
would
this?
say when we adopted the new personnel policy in 2017 that it just got included and nobody picked up on the process.
But then
I thought it was
after,
deliberate. I thought we deliberately did that. Because I was here when that happened. And that's why I asked, because I thought that was the case.
To leave the policy in?
To put it in there. Because
To
we
put
were
it in
having,
initially.
we were having lots of issues with upper management and decisions and personal issues and people not feeling like they were being justly reprimanded or, you know, all of a sudden it was like, you're fired, we're at will, and you have to deal with it. There was no real recourse for someone that feels like they were wronged, and so I feel like I'm not saying we shouldn't repeal it, but I mean, I'm just, no other cities are doing it. I don't know what you would do as a recourse as an employee if you feel like you've truly been wrongfully terminated or something, or even reprimanded for some reason, and it goes in your personnel file as a permanent thing. You know, you kind of lose your recourse to the higher court, so to speak.
Sure.
I feel that the appeal is through TWC. That's always there as the appeal process for a employee. I could be mistaken, but
In the time that I've sat on council and in this, we've never overturned a decision by the department heads except in one instance, and there was one rehire, and that's over 9 years. But then again, ma'am?
Nathan, I'm just letting you
Pointing
know
out
that
that
there's a
no
hand
one's
up, but I'm not to stop you, I was just,
Oh, okay.
yeah.
Only the one rehire in 9 years, and that seemed to be justified at the time I was on the council then. As far as the personnel file and unjustly reprimanded, that's not a council decision. That's placed in your administrator and your public and your department heads. lap.
Technically, so does this. In many other cases, so does this.
Well, this is,
Appealing a
process.
termination.
this is only on termination,
I
not
know,
on
but-
reprimand.
But termination is solely at the hands of the administrator as well in many of the cases,
Well, the administrator and the department head.
as would a reprimand. So to me, they're not different, is all, that's my only, that, when you said that, to me, they're not different. A reprimand and a termination, it's still solely, I mean, the decision is there, so either we have it for both or we don't have it for either, or, you know, it's like, to me, they're not distinction, you know, because we either,
Well, I think there's a huge distinction
I do too.
between terminating an employee and reprimanding him for an inappropriate action. I think there's a huge difference, and there's certainly nothing that council needs
it
to be
wouldn't be
involved
if
in.
it was a suspension or a without pay or something that would, something that would impact his livelihood in some way. I mean, they could, if I felt like I was wrongfully suspended or somebody had told me that my pay was taken away, and as it happened, is that pay was messed with and didn't go through the right channels, and people just all of a sudden said, why is this not in my paycheck? Why? And then they say, oh, well, we just changed policy. And they're just supposed to accept that? So, you know, because a decision has been made and it wasn't, and so they don't have a recourse to go up to the court and say, logically, because up until now, I have not felt confidence that this office has been run in a professional manner to where we would not need this. And if we were to lose our leadership that we have right now, which we're about to lose one of them, that, you know, that if we don't know what the future holds. Today's administration is quite capable of being fair. Yesterday's was not, and not literally yesterday, but yesterday as in the former ones, they were not. And people employees were not treated fairly, and their paychecks were messed with, and they didn't feel comfortable that they could come to council and appeal it. And wrong decisions were made by administration, and I do believe that's wrong, and I don't know if this is the right way to do it. But if I was an employee of the city and felt like I had no recourse to the craziness that happens sometimes in municipal government and administration, then I don't think I would want to work here either. So I think that was the reason we I believe that we made the decision to put it in, is because decisions were being made on a day-to-day basis that shouldn't have been made.
Will, did you still want to comment?
Yes, ma'am, just historical data, just within the first 6 months of my employment here, there were 2 employees fired together and there was no appeal to city council policy. They both appealed it to the city council, and the city council overturned the decision, and they were both put back to work. Naming.
I thought I remembered at least one of
I
them.
thought one
so-
went back to work, the other would remain terminated.
Both of them.
Yeah, so. Anyway, I'm not, I don't know if this is the right thing to do, but I do believe that our city government has not run so smoothly that I would feel comfortable leaving this to have no board final ruling. And it's great that it comes to us and we don't overturn it. That means things are working properly. But it also means that the city council will have no oversight, or the employees will have no recourse to do what we're supposed to be doing, which is overseeing the city government and decisions like that. Because otherwise, some of the things that have happened would have never come to us. I mean, we would have never known. So how do we oversee some of that stuff? I don't know. I don't know if it's the right way. I'm just saying that there's reasons for, in my mind, for it to be there and be in place.
Darcy?
I totally understand why the attorney wants us to get rid of it, right? It's his job to protect us and to keep us out of the muck. That's his entire job. I'm going to agree with Tony in that with the appeal process still being there, because it is our job to oversee certain things. I don't think, and I don't want to get too far into it because I don't want to get off the item itself. I don't think that council needs to oversee more than the termination. I have given this a lot of thought, and I do think, although I don't want to be involved in the day-to-day business, that's why we have an administrator, that's why we have department heads. However, I do like that there is a finality of the appeal process. And also, with us being such a small city, we do have the citizens come to us. I mean, I get phone calls and text messages and messages off of Facebook with people asking me what happened, why is this happening, or that wasn't fair, I'm hearing this. And they feel, I believe, and I felt before I was on council, that when I contact a council member, that if they at least tell me, I can't tell them everything, we can't tell them everything, stuff that happens in closed session, but if I tell somebody, or if a council member told me it was justified, trust me, that was justified, that hopefully they can trust that when I say that termination was justified, that they can believe that. When they don't necessarily know that department head or whatever, when they've been running around with these different employees or see them checking the water meters and they, whatever, that maybe they can trust, hopefully, us that they voted for. That's who we are, that's why they vote for us, that's why I vote for people, we should be able to trust them. And so that's why if we were voting on it right now, I would vote to keep that appeal process. Although, like our attorney, I don't want that extra responsibility, but I do think in our small city, I think it is important to have.
Jerry?
I'd like to hear from Jill and David. How would you handle things now if we didn't have this spill process in place and you had a disgruntled employee that wasn't happy or didn't agree with decision made by any of the department heads? How would that be handled?
Well, first, as I explained earlier, any consideration for termination of an individual, I go through the process of speaking with the human resources person, the department head, and the legal department. The department head's recommendation is going to be seriously considered, heavily considered, right? And then we're going to look at we're going to review the policy and to find out what the infraction is, and we're going to determine whether or not they're violated, whatever, and to what extent the punishment should be or shouldn't be. So to get to the point, at the final determination of a termination of a person, I myself have done everything possible to dot all my I's and cross all my T's, taking into consideration that person is a human, their livelihood, their past performance, everything, the whole totality of circumstances is considered. So, number one, I don't take terminating anybody lightly. That's not a fun job to do. So, I'm going to ensure also, but I also have to ensure the safety of the staff, the safety of the citizens, and the liability of the city in all that consideration. So, there's going to be multiple conversations with the department head, legal, the human resources, and that person involved, the whole history, work history, before a determination is made. So if I come to the city council, or if I terminate that person, period, then it's after all those long determinations and homework has been done to come to that final decision. So as far as the appeal process, you know,
Well, the grievance policy is still in place, so we're not removing the grievance. So if you have a problem with your superior or something like that, you would bring it to HR or the city administrator, or in some case, if there's neither one, the mayor, to file a grievance if you think something is wrong with your check, as Tony mentioned, or this or that, anything that you want. So that's not being removed. The only thing that's being removed is the actual termination appeal too. So we've had several people have grievances that we've come in, we do investigations, handle it without it even getting to termination. That process is still in the policy.
Rebecca had her hand up first, Tony.
So a couple of things I feel like, and this is why this is in front of us today, because of a previous council conversation, that the process that David just described, I feel, in my opinion, is very sufficient and thorough. And then I agree with Tony that I think there was a time that we had this in place because we didn't have a thorough and trusted leader in your role. And then the other piece, I just want to point out what Jill just described as the grievance process, which is what sounds like more of what you were talking about earlier when you were giving some examples with paychecks and things like that, that process still is in place. And so I would feel comfortable at this time removing this and letting the wheel work. And if ever there's a point where the wheel's not working, and we feel like council, so it's a council intervention that I feel like should be unnecessary with a functional and capable staff.
Tony?
So a couple of points. I commend you, and I 100% trust, David, that you are following that, so that God forbid we lose you. And we are back in the situation where we have trouble finding qualified administrators that are professional, unbiased, willing to do the job, not here to make friends, willing to do the job on the behalf of the citizens. We can't, just because it's working well today and we trust those in the position today, it takes too long and too many casualties happen to put this back into place. So that's my first thing. My second thing is that if this was to stay into place and they are working, we as a council show to this small town that we are unified and that it was just, as Darcy mentioned, that they did have an appeal process. The small town, we did review the same information. They felt like they had an appeal process and could go to the council. We reviewed the data on the reason for termination, and we backed them publicly, consistently, whether it be unanimous, but it's going to be a majority. And to me, that gets us through all of the rumors out there on the fact that it was personal and that whatever. And it just supports the decision that needed to be made, because in a small town, in a small office, it's difficult to fire someone. And there's gonna be issues. So the third thing, and it's more of a question, the grievance process is for employees, and it does cover the examples that I gave, but the grievance process would not cover termination because they would no longer be an employee, so the grievance, so it would be back to just termination. So it's kind of a clarification, and I get what you're saying from my first original comments. But I'm not, we haven't been running smoothly long enough and professionally long enough for me to comfortably say, no, take this off the books. So.
All right, council, I'd like to have
I
a
hear you.
motion to either to remove it or not to remove it, a second, and then we'll have further discussion if necessary. Darcy?
I'd like to make a motion.
Yes, ma'am.
I'd like to make a motion that we not remove the appeal process after termination in the City of Bandera Personnel Policy Manual at this time.
Thank you. Tony?
A second.
All right. There's been quite a bit of discussion. Any further points to be made, further discussion? Jerry?
I'd just like to reiterate, I feel that that is a process that you can go through with TWC, and corporations wouldn't have an appeal process like this other than HR, resorting to HR.
David?
I'm sorry, go ahead.
The Workforce Commission doesn't have an appeal process unless you're talking about unemployment benefits.
EEOC.
They do.
And those, well, that's different, it's only for very small window of things. You know, I won't get into those things in my personal experience either, but, you know, it's a very, very small window of things and unemployment, so, but it's not just an appeal process, it's totally different.
David, you wanted to speak?
Just the distinction between a reprimand and termination is huge to me, and I don't think a reprimand should go before the city council for any kind of consideration. It should be something that should be handled at the city administrator and department head level. Termination obviously is final and severs the relationship between the city and the person, so if they want to fight for that to come back to, of course that's up to y'all, but that's just what I'd like to say for the record.
Rebecca?
Okay. I'm happy to follow suit with you guys, and I appreciate hearing from you tonight on this, and it's just, if it comes up again, we can bring it back for discussion again.
I just want one other comment. This doesn't do what David's, I mean, the grievance is totally separate, remains in place, and we are strictly talking about termination appeals here.
Absolutely.
Okay, great. Thank you.
All right,
I'm
there's
with
a
you,
motion, a
David.
second on the table.
Yeah.
Discussion, council? All in favor of leaving the appeal process post-termination in the employee handbook? Darcy, Tony, Rebecca in favor. All opposed? Jerry opposed, motion passes. Item 5, do I have a motion to adjourn? Jerry makes a motion to adjourn, Darcy second, discussion, all in favor? All in favor, none opposed. Thank you, council. 6:28, this meeting is adjourned.